Hello, hello. What's up, everybody? I probably won't keep my camera on. I turned it on so y'all can see my new cat tree for my lizard. But, hey, Nay, we'll have fun in the tub. I'm Jelly. I want to be in the tub. Um, I wanted to see if he would come out, but he's in his bowl down on the floor, soaking, and he'll probably be mad if I try and grab him, but I got him a new cat tree and he's loving it. Here, I'll show you guys pictures real quick, though. Yeah. It's not really jammies, it's like a sweat outfit. I got it from Fashion Nova, but I'm like totally wearing it. Oh my goodness, there is a whole spider just hanging from the ceiling over there. Okay. Look at this goof. He is loving it. There's his little hidey hole. It's up top where he's pancaked out, getting the sun. He loves it. I know. It's a little itty bitty spider just like came down from the ceiling. I don't even know how it got in here. Anyway, um, I have been I was just gonna talk about what's it called? Lauren Cook, but everybody's talking about the Karen Reed case, and I did a video already on the Karen Reed case a while ago, but now that it's like um regrowing interest, I figured we can talk about that a little after Lauren Cook, because the baby blanket. It's actually my son's hospital blanket, and he said, "Mom, you can let him use my baby blanket." And he's potty trained, so I know he won't like ruin it. So I was like, "All right, we'll let him use it." But yeah, that's my son's hospital blanket, actually. So if y'all have been following this, let me show you a picture. This woman, Lauren Cook, she is missing, and her daughters are missing. And hey, Emily, let me say hi to everybody. Hey, Nenny. Hey, K Braze, Sarah, B&B, Lori, Nadie. Am I missing anybody? Emily. Hey, lover of the law. Thank you. I got it from Fashion Nova. I love it. It's nice and thick too. Normally, like, some outfits I'm like, from there, but this was a nice one. I like. Hey, Nina. Um, So she's missing, and her three daughters. Like, a missing persons from what I've gathered, a missing persons report was filed, and they're in the national database for missing children and whatever. Hey, Destiny. Um, but here's the kicker. The husband says he's not concerned and that he's been in contact with her and he's not worried about it. And the mother seemed to, or somebody in the family seemed to be concerned at first and filed a missing persons report. And now I think the mother is saying that she got in contact with her too, but she won't tell them where she's at. But she hasn't used her like credit card or anything like that. So somebody has to be helping her, in my opinion. So some people think that, maybe there's foul play involved and the husband is being like, oh no, I know where she is. It's cool. And then other people think that she's running from CPS. Now, she did have some court dates, I believe, with CPS that had come up and that she has missed. And I'm not exactly sure what it is over, but I there are some things that do raise eyebrows and some things that people have been saying. So basically, they live in Virginia and they grow marijuana, which is, I believe, legal in Virginia. But I don't know about the legalities of if you have to do it in like a, where, if it can be around children, whatever. So there's a lot of speculation if, that could be what the CPS stuff is about. I seen in the group that somebody said one of the family members read off some of the allegations of CPS and they said they were pretty serious. So uh pretty much, they think that she could be running from CPS. They apparently her and her hubby are more of like off the grid type people who live off the grid, um, things like that. So let me read this article first. So she's also pregnant, supposedly. Okay, so a mother of missing Virginia mom says she's deeply concerned and reveals her daughter is pregnant. The husband of Lauren Cook told local media he is not concerned and knows his wife and three children are doing well. The mother of missing Virginia mom tells Today that she and her family are deeply concerned, revealing that her daughter is pregnant. We're deeply concerned for our daughter, Lauren, and our grandchildren, Benjamin, Hannah, and Elijah, and our unborn grandchild. Lisa Tuza tells Today via email. We want them all to know we love them and we are here for them and want to bring them to safety. Lauren's husband, Jordan Cook, who is the father of their children, previously told a local broadcaster that he is not worried about his wife and three children who police have declared missing. Yeah, right, Risk? Well, they have like a company where they sell, um, you know, like THC related products, but there was also like a ban and then they had to change their products to like only a very small amount of THC and more CBD. Um so I don't really know if it has to do with that or if the allegations even have to do with the marijuana, but it seems a lot of people are speculating that that might be a possibility. Um He said, Contrary to what has been reported, my wife and my children are not missing. He said on September 18th, I have no reason to be concerned about their safety or well being. I have heard from my wife, and I'm sure she and my children are doing well. We ask that our family's privacy be respected at this time. Hey, Sabrina. Hey, Princess Megan Elsa. Um, according to a September 19th Facebook post by the Franklin County Sheriff's Office in Rocky Mount, a missing persons investigation began on September 13th after Lauren Cook failed to show up to the Franklin County Juvenile and Domestic Relations Court for a scheduled appearance. Authorities are also searching for her three children, Benjamin, Hannah, and Elijah. My makeup. What's wrong with my makeup? Are you spamming my chat? Fix my makeup. Um, oh wait, what am I? Continue reading, sorry. Law enforcement follow-up was conducted with family members who had lost contact with Lauren and children several days prior. Read the Facebook post. It was at this time that a missing person report was made, and Lauren with her three children were all entered by law enforcement as missing persons. Right? There has been no reported contact with Lauren since September 5th or 6th, when she stated that she was in New York visiting family. On September 14th, investigators confirmed that Lauren and her children were in Litchfield, Illinois. So I believe they tracked her like phone or something to right, Nick? Litchfield, Illinois. The children are listed on the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children's website. Sergeant Megan Houston of the Franklin County Sheriff's Office told today that the mother's cell phone last ping on September 7th in Lexington, Kentucky. Huston told Today.com that Jordan originally stated he had not been in contact with his wife and children. Recently, he said that he has, but does not know or will not disclose the location. But I believe her mother did come forward and say that she has spoken to her too. And I think it was recently for the latest court thing. So she added that Jordan is not specifically under investigation, but he is obviously within this investigation. And on September 22nd, Huston shared an update with Today.com. The family was due back in court Wednesday, September 20th, she says. Lauren and the children did not appear, but the husband did. She added both the husband and Lauren's mother relayed to investigators that they both received phone calls from Lauren the morning of court. So her mother's saying now that she got a phone call from her on that morning. So it sounds like, why would the mother lie about this? Phone calls were simply to let them know that her and the kids were okay, but did not disclose the location. Huston says Jordan has been cooperative with our office and has been attending any court dates that were set. Lauren and her children will remain classified as missing by authorities until they make face-to-face contact with law enforcement to ensure they are okay and not under any duress. So, some people think, there's more to it, and other people think that she's just, running from CPS. I did see there's been some Reddit posts where some people do think that it is the husband. I have no idea. But this is what somebody is saying on there that claims to be a friend of the family. So obviously take this with a grain of salt because, it could be anybody just claiming this. But it says, in my personal opinion, the missing persons report was based on false information that Lauren missed a family meeting. I know for a fact that she did not miss a family meeting. Her parents said she did when she simply wishes to keep them at arm's length. The false information was then disseminated by law enforcement as well as false quotes from the husband expressing concern, which he has contradicted in his statement today. I believe this was a coordinated attempt to force the family out of privacy by putting the public on the lookout for Lauren and her van by blasting them across national news. Knowing people would assume it's the next big murder mystery. I assure you they do not enjoy all of this media attention as they have historically enjoyed living off the grid and homeschooling their children. So everybody thinks like this is the husband speaking under and all of the current news articles state the husband nor authorities have any reason to believe Lauren or the kids are in any danger. So what on earth could all this hoopla about finding her and the kids possibly be about? If they told the public, perhaps they'd be less supportive, right? Now, instead of assuming the husband is up to no good, I implore you to theorize and let your imagination run wild as to what the government authority might try to twist the narrative and break the rules to justify interfering with how a family raises their children. Whose agenda might fit that? There's a reason that particular arm of the state's government catches a bad rap despite its good intentions. Now toss in the fact that the father is 100% legal and permitted hemp farmer in the Baptist Bible Belt, and hopefully the puzzle pieces start to fit together there. As you can imagine, the Cooks, being the new kids on the block, have ruffled some feathers in a very conservative community and have taken some market share from others in the industry who would like to see them gone. One of the richest people in Franklin currently holds this attitude against them, and one can't help but wonder what slanderous statements they've made. Lauren manages their brick-and-mortar storefront at 25184 Virgil Good Highway, Simply Southern, over at websleuths.com. Back with this comment. I got the name of the dad. I figured out they were in Ferrum. Community connects to Floyd, Virginia, home of the hippies. Moo, I knew it had seen the mother on a private Facebook page and mentioned on here, thought they were closely connected to the hippies, and if something was off by the way the sheriff handled it. Franklin County is 100% farmers and lake folks, very conservative. These folks produce pot seeds, and according to the website, good ones. Homeschoolers have a lot of CPS fears because a lot of them don't vaccinate. Oh, gotcha. I can see that. It said that her mom spoke to her before court. I don't know if it was the second or third hearing, but it did say in the article that the mother did speak to her before the hearing. But they're not taking that as a reasonable excuse. They said they want to see them face to face. Like they won't take them off the missing persons thing until they make sure that they see the kids face to face and that they're not under duress. Oh, thank you, Abra. I got it from Fashion Nova. And the sweatpants match too. If you want to hear Jordan Cook, the husband, speak on a local podcast and get a feel for the gentle, caring, spiritual person he is while discussing his work as a professional hemp farmer, here's a link. He begins speaking at 29:30. Now, I would have to like look this up, so I didn't see that, but that's the gist of it. But somebody did say in the group that it was a rather serious allegation that CPS is making. So I'm not sure what it is, but I don't know. Let me see if I can find anything else. But I mean, that's basically the gist of it. I personally don't think like it is foul play or anything like. Oh, thank you, Lori. Lori always outdoing herself with membership. Stop it, Lori. Hey, Mark. Um, I haven't been able to find like any, besides the hemp farming stuff, any other things that it could be. I know their business is called like Mount Zion something. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. And they're very like live off the grid hippie type family who homeschools. I don't know if they like grow it at their home or they do it elsewhere. Like I don't really know the ins and outs of all that, but seeing a couple comments and I'm trying to find them. She's apparently 5 months pregnant. They do have I gotta find that interview on about him being a hip farmer because I'm curious about that. But everyone's like, oh, it gives me Chris Watts vibes, but I think he's going to court and she's just left with the kids and in her mind is like, okay, I'll let him handle the court things and take the kids so they can't take my kids. You know what I mean? That's just the vibe I get like, you can go and figure this out. Or maybe she's not really down with keeping up this pot stuff and he is and that's what's causing them issues and maybe it was one of those things where she's like F you, you're on your own in this, go handle this while I'm out with the kids because I ain't losing my kids over you. you know like I kind of get that vibe. What is on my seat? My kid put a sticker on my seat. I was like, what the heck is that? California, we are pretty lax, but my old neighbor used to homeschool 5 kids, and I think someone did call CPS on them, and they sold their house and left the state in a month. Oh, wow. Yeah, hopefully they're not growing it like in the house with the children and while she's pregnant. Um, but hopefully they do it, separately or like in a shed or, just whatever. I don't know, but not in the house. But at first I thought, oh, maybe this could be something shady, but being that her mom said that she spoke to her, I think that, you know, she's probably she's probably okay. Hey, Boston Nick. Congrats. Y'all are so cute, Boston. You and Jules. Adorable. Happy for y'all. How was the wedding? I love seeing like, you know, happy happy like love stories. Might be too early to say that, but when things turn out well. Uh so anyway, I figured I'd go over that. But I also added in so about like probably a month ago I did a video on the John O'Keefe Karen Reed case. And now that it's kind of like um popping back up again and everybody's getting sorry. Yeah, I'm knocking on wood here. Sorry. Um Now that it's like, getting popular and everybody's into it, I figured we could talk about that tonight too cuz um it's like, spreading like wildfire and it's one of those cases where it's totally could go either way. Hold on, I'm gonna turn off my camera and put some chapstick on my lips because they're bothering me. Uh, but it's one of those cases that it could really go. Uh, yeah, true, Sabrina. I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't know what you really do with plants, but if they're like say they're like manufacturing their products in the home, and I got stuff all over the home. That I could see the concern with, because you know how sometimes people make like candy or things like that. I get so nervous about that stuff. Like I always tell my son, because he's one of those kids who will just like grab candy off the counter, not even look and eat it. And I'm like, if you are anywhere and you see some kind of candy, you better take it to an adult and ask them first, not just like open the candy and eat it. Because God forbid it is like, like those Sour Patch Kids that have like THC in them or something. That stuff like freaks me out. Now that uh yeah, there's different things that I could find concerning about it, but even if you just had like a locked shed where you did it or something, like that would even be fine to me, but oh really? You can blow up making dabs? Wow, I didn't know that. Well, there you go. Yeah, like an infused gummy worm. They make the packages. What scares me is they make the packages look just like the candy. Like it looks just like it besides like something really small, and it scares the crap out of me because a kid, they're not going to be looking at that. They're just going to be like, this looks like a Sour Patch Kid bag. Um so that worries me sometimes. But uh anyway, so has anybody followed the John O'Keefe Karen Reed case, or do I need to like completely break it down? Break it down. Hey, Frank Mancini, what's up? All right, let me show you. I'm gonna pull up pictures of everyone because it's kind of like I like a visual. I like having a visual of everybody. All right, okay, so this is Karen Reed and John O'Keefe. They are boyfriend and girlfriend. Okay. Um, Around New Year's, Let me find the exact date so I can tell you guys exactly. All right, so he died on January 29th, but let's rewind to New Year's. Him and her are out, and he gets really drunk, and she gets very upset with him because he's like so drunk that he's just like incoherent. And then she spends New Year's Eve with his nieces that he adopted. So he adopted his nieces and took care of his nieces. They've been selling marijuana for almost a decade. It was in Utah at first where it wasn't legal. And in recent years, it's been in other states where it's illegal. Okay, thank you, the infinite expert. Well, that, that makes more sense. I wonder if she went to Utah then. Hey, B. Tim. Um, but yeah, I wonder if was heading to Utah if she was up in um, Illinois. So, I didn't think about that. Um, so on New Year's, they get in a fight, and she ends up spending, New Year's with his nieces while he passes out or whatever. So it's kind of like there's like a fresh frustration there. Okay, keep that in mind. Um, and then on January 29th, they go to a bar. I think it was something Waterfall Bar. I think it was called something Waterfall Bar. But anyway, they go to a bar, and while they're there, they they run into this woman, Jennifer McCabe. Jennifer McCabe is her kids are friends with John O'Keefe's nieces that he adopted. So, their kids are friends. Um, I'm trying to find a picture of her so you can see. Just for, so everybody has an idea of who the players are. Um, I use Turtle Boy, but he has pictures of everyone to make it like a little bit easier to. Well, anyway, let me keep going. So here she is. Oh, good. Well, it's at least nice that he blacked out the kids. So that's Jennifer McCabe right there. That might be the neighbor lady. It looks like her. Okay, Sabrina. Hey, Kia. So now I'm talking about the Karen Reed case. I was just giving a rundown of the Lauren Cook case, and then I'm moving on to this case now just to talk about it because it's because having a renewed interest. This is the Karen Reed and John O'Keefe case. All right, so this isn't the Lauren Cook case. This is switched over to that one. For I talked about the Lauren one in the beginning, and now I'm switching to this. Sorry if I'm confusing anyone. All right, so he sees Jennifer McCabe at the bar, and she invites him back to her brother-in-law's house for a party. They're having a party. I think it was one of the younger kids' birthdays, and the kids were having a party, and the parents were going back to like join the party, from what I remember hearing. Um, it was like Brian Albert's son's birthday or nephew's birthday or something like that. Uh, so she invites them to come to the house. Something Fairview Road. Let me see if I can. I forget the exact address. Well, anyway, she invites them back to the party, Brian Albert's house. Brian Albert, he is also a cop, but he's not friends with John O'Keefe. I mean, 34 Fairview. Thank you. They I'm sure they know of each other because they're both cops. Um, but they were not friends as far as I'm concerned. They he was just the connection was Jen and her kids. So they go to Brian Halbert's house on 34 View, Fairview. She pulls up outside. Now he had already texted Jennifer McCabe and said like, "Hey, we're on the way." And he says, "Hey, we're on the way." And she's like, "Okay, text me when you get here." So they get there and they pull up and Karen's like, "Listen, they invited you to the party, but they didn't say me, so can you go in and ask if I can come in too? I feel weird just coming in. Can you make sure that it's okay that I'm with you?" So, and he didn't have a jacket or anything, so she drops him off right at the end of the driveway. He goes into, I believe this is Brian Albert. Here we go. Let me show a picture of Brian. So this is Brian, this bald guy right here. This is the homeowner. Okay. So he's like, okay, let me go ask. So he gets out of the car. She claims she sees him walk all the way up to the door. And then I guess she goes to turn around, do like a 3-point turn, and she sits and she waits for him to text her to give her like the okay. Maybe she went to go park, whatever. But she sits for 10 minutes and waits for him to text her and say, "Hey, you can come in." He doesn't text her. So she's like, "You know what? F this mother effer. You know, this is the second time this happened in 29 days. I'm pissed off. I'm going home." And this is her words. So she goes back to the house and goes to bed around 1:30 in the morning. And then she wakes up around 5:30, I think it was, 5:30-ish. Sorry, I had to clear my throat. She wakes up around 5:30 and he's not there. So she starts texting him. She's mad. She's like, "Where the F are you? You know, why didn't you call me?" Like any woman would be pissed the hell off that they woke up at 5 a.m. and their man ain't there. You know what I'm saying? Like, um, I'd be pissed. I'd be flipping the F out too. So she sent him a bunch of texts, like a lot of them. And then she calls Jen McCabe and asks Jen's help, and their neighbor, who I think may have been that other woman in that picture of Jen McCabe. Because it looks like her, but I'm not 100% sure. Well, anyway, so they go searching for him and they go to Brian Albert's house, where the party was at. And immediately when they pull up, they see him laying in the snow. She's overheard by first responders saying, I hit him, right? So she did an interview, and in her interview, she says she got scared because like her first, she was questioning things like, "Oh my God, did I hit him?" Like she said, how she worded it was like, "Could I have hit him? Did I hit him?" And they just kind of like left that part out. But she was like asking them, "Do you think it's possible I could have hit him?" Like what, she was trying to put all the things together in her head. Anyways, uh, he goes to the hospital. He's, pronounced dead from blunt force trauma and hyperthermia. Okay. So the prosecution is saying that Karen backed into him and killed him and was so drunk she didn't know, and then, drove home and woke up and I guess forgot about it or whatever. And then the defense is saying no, he went inside A fight ensued with that was possibly started by Colin Albert, which is Brian Albert's nephew. Um, because John and Colin were neighbors. Hey, involved money. What's up? John and Colin were neighbors, and I did hear today, and I need to go confirm this, but I heard that it was confirmed, but I haven't confirmed it, but from what somebody said, that it was confirmed that John had called the cops on Colin before for some kind of drug thing. Like, I don't know if he was selling drugs or doing drugs, but it had to do with drugs. And John O'Keefe had called the police on him before. So keep in mind there is a neighbor beef between John and Colin. They're neighbors. And Colin is Brian Albert's nephew. So he was at the house. He was at Brian's house for the party. So Jen McCabe, Colin's aunt, Brian Albert, Colin's uncle, and Colin and his dad and his mom, they're all at the party. Plus Brian's son, Brian's daughter, and a bunch of other people. So the defense says no. His surveillance cameras just happened to not be working that day. He claims. Brian Albert did have surveillance cameras in the house, but they were not hooked up and they were not functioning. So, basically, the defense thinks he went into the house and Colin started a fight with him, hit him or whatever. And then Brian Albert possibly jumped in, and their dog, which was a German Shepherd. So John's injuries, he had 2 black eyes, he had a bunch of, like, cuts and scratches on his arms, he had bruises on the tops of his hands, and, a big straight gash on the back of his head back here. He looked like he had been in a fist fight. So they believe that, maybe he possibly got in a fight with Colin. Brian jumped in. Brian is also a trained MMA fighter and a cop, and possibly the dog, which caused the scratches on the arm, which I'll show pictures of. And then, knocked him unconscious and put him out in the front yard. Took his unconscious and just tossed him out. Well, at 2:27 a.m. Hey, Aaron. Yay, the YouTube algorithm. Uh, it never gives notifications, but glad you got here. So, okay. So he's out in the cold on the lawn. Party's still going on. Jen is home sleeping. This is the defense's story. At 2:27 a.m., Jennifer McCabe, Brian Albert's sister-in-law, Colin's aunt, Googles how long to die in the cold at 2:27 a.m. So this is hours before they find him. This is still when the party's going on. This is when, what's her face? Karen Reed is sleeping. She Googles how long to die in the cold, that is crazy to me. I cannot get over the Google search. If for some reason they can explain away this Google search, this would be a game changer for me. Oh my gosh, Rapper. My makeup is fine. So, no, I forget where I was. Okay, so she Googles how long to die in the cold. Yeah, she Googled how long to die in the cold at 2:27 in the morning. So, it almost feels like, maybe while the party was going, during the party or while the party was going on or right after the party, they realized he had died or they realized he was out unconscious on the lawn and they wanted to wanted to see how long it would take for him to die in the cold, whatever. But she Googles that, which is very strange. This is like the game changer. This is the big Google, like the Google search is the big thing for me. If they can explain away this Google search, I might be able to see Karen being guilty, but this Google search just yeah. So they Google that, and then everybody leaves the party. Everybody goes home, and nobody sees a body on the front lawn. Nobody. There's like 20 people at that party, and not one person sees a body on the front lawn. Not one. Um, Now the prosecution says his phone GPS never makes it into the house. The phone never makes it into the house. But his Apple Watch says around those times he was climbing and walking up and down several flights of steps. So, could it be he dropped his phone in the snow and that's why he didn't call Karen? And then before he could get out and come get Karen, a fist fight ensued? But his Apple Watch is saying one thing and his phone is saying another thing. Um So, because of his Apple Watch saying he went upstairs and then downstairs, they believe that uh, is who having an affair. Yeah, there's so much to it. So, they believe that this fight could have happened in the basement based on the steps thing, right? And so the shortly after this all goes down, they get rid of the dog and they redo their basement floor and then they sell the house. So that is, I guess concerning too. Um yeah, well that's the thing. If, they don't know if she could have reversed the car on him or not, but then if she did, reverse the car on him, why was Jennifer McCabe in the house googling how long to die in the cold? I mean, I guess it could just be a coincidence and they could be talking about hypothermia at a drunken party and whatever. Or I don't know. So, actually I have the defense motion up so I can read you the defense motion. They also found hair in the taillight that they believe to be John O'Keefe's, but then it was tested and they were not able to get any DNA from it. So, it may not have been human hair or whatever. Also, they supposedly found tail light pieces of the tail light in the snow a week later. Okay? Not the day of when they're searching the crime scene, but a week later. But here's the kicker. The lead investigator, his name is Michael Proctor. It's kind of a conflict of interest for him to be investigating the case because he is very good friends with the Alberts. But he claims that he's not, and they're not close, but there is a lot of online evidence that proves otherwise. I mean, his little children are in photos with the Alberts teenagers, and they have family home videos of birthday parties where he's there at their parties. He's in photos with them. I mean, they're definitely friends. So he tried to say that they weren't friends, but they are friends. Well, there is a time frame where he ordered like a tow truck to come, but there was like an hour time frame where he would have been there by himself and would have been able to plant a broken taillight. And also, when Karen left her home that night to go look for John, she backed into a car and her taillight could have broken then. But also, there is a video of her backing out of her driveway, and you can see that her tail light doesn't really look damaged when she pulls away, which would be weird because if she broke her tail light hitting him, it would look damaged. Like, if she hit him and then went home, the CCTV of her pulling out to go search for him, it would have been broken there. You know what I mean? But her tail light doesn't look damaged at all. To me, at least, it's hard to tell, but it looked intact. So that's strange too, and goes in her favor as well. Also, there's a lot of connections. Brian Albert is an MMA fighter. There's a cop up the street that lives there that's friends with him. The lead investigator is friends with them. And his daughter is a first responder. I mean, they have so many connections within the community that people really do believe that it is a mass cover up. I wouldn't say mass cover up, but definitely certain people helping cover up to help Colin from getting, he's young, from being in trouble. But if she was doing a three-point turn, she would have probably had to be going pretty slow. So, could you do that much damage if you're going slow, like making a three-point turn? I don't know. And they also didn't search the home. And get this. Okay. So, when they found um John O'Keefe in the street, Jen McCabe calls Brian Albert. And Brian Albert never comes out. And normally, like when another cop dies and you're a cop, wouldn't you think that he would come out of his house at least? I don't know. Yeah. I mean, she could be blackout drunk and accidentally hit him, but then how do you explain the Google search of how long to die in the cold? And why, getting rid of their dog and, all that. And the tail light looking intact. All right, so here's the defense motion. Um Introduction. How long to die in the cold? New revelations from Jennifer McCabe's cell phone must reverse the trajectory of this case. Evidence obtained from an analysis of the complete forensic image of Jennifer McCabe's cell phone, which the Massachusetts State Police and Norfolk County District Attorney's Office withheld from the defense for more than a year, exculpates Miss Reed and decisively implicates Jennifer McCabe and Brian Albert in the murder of John O'Keefe. In spite of the fact that John O'Keefe was found dead on the front lawn of Boston police officer Brian Albert, a highly trained boxer and fighter with deep familial and personal ties to the Canton Police Department and the Massachusetts State Police, law enforcement has utterly failed to treat Mr. Albert and his family members who were present on the night in question as suspects. Instead, law enforcement immediately arrested Miss Reed, based in no small part or incriminating statements attributed to her by one of the actual conspirators in John O'Keefe's murder, Brian Albert's sister-in-law, Jennifer McCabe. As this court is well aware, Miss Reed has always maintained that she dropped O'Keefe off at Brian Albert's residence, located at 34 Fairview Road, the Albert residence, just after midnight on January 29th, 2022, and frustratedly left without him when he failed to answer any of her calls, presuming that he had proceeded into the house for the party. Brian Albert, Jennifer McCabe, and Matthew McCabe, all of whom were present at the Albert residence on the night in question, have maintained that O'Keefe never entered the residence. They all similarly claimed that they had no reason to suspect any sort of foul play until O'Keefe's body was discovered the next morning in Brian Albert's front lawn at 6:04 a.m. by Miss Reed and Miss McCabe. Previously withheld information and data obtained from the analysis of Jennifer McCabe's iPhone 11 paints a much darker picture of what actually transpired on January 29th, 2022. Oh, cool. Truth Seeker. I'll check it out. I talked about it like a month or so ago, but it was kind of like not too popular then. So now that it's kind of being talked about all over, I figured I would, you know, re-bring it up again and talk about it. So an analysis of the complete forensic image of Jennifer McCabe's cell phone by computer forensic expert Richard Green establishes that Miss McCabe, the government's seminal witness, Googled how long to die in the cold. So it was it was typed like this at 2:27 a.m. Okay, Tracy. um, Jennifer McCabe explicitly told law enforcement that she did not think much of O'Keefe's failure to enter the residence that night and assumed that O'Keefe and Miss Reed simply decided to go home. Even though John was messaging her, telling her that he was, on the way and was going to be there soon, or was about to be there. Yet 3 hours before Jennifer McCabe had any reason to suspect John O'Keefe hadn't gone home with Miss Reed, 3 hours before she inserted herself into Miss Reed's search for O'Keefe and delayed her return to the Albert residence, and 3 hours before her discovery of his lifeless body in the cold snow of her brother-in-law's front lawn, Miss McCabe had only one thing on her mind. How long does it take to die in the cold? What is even more shocking is the very next day, before turning her phone over to law enforcement, she took calculated steps to purge her phone of this inculpatory search, and at the same time attempted to delete her communications with Brian Albert and remove a screenshot of his contact information from her phone, which she had obviously shared with somebody that morning. In light of this new information, the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office should immediately do what's right and file a Noel Przecki. I think that's how I say Noel Przecki or Noel Przecki. I don't know how to pronounce that, but it's spelled like this. Short of that just result, Miss Reed's constitutional right to defend herself against the false allegations demand that she be permitted to obtain critical information that law enforcement failed to obtain and preserve from the outset, namely communications and location information associated with the actual perpetrators of this crime, Jennifer McCabe and Brian Albert. This information will undoubtedly further implicate Jennifer McCabe and Brian Alberts in the murder of O'Keefe, and the sinister cover up resulted in the false charges being brought against Miss Reed. So they want like all the GPS information of their movements that night and all that stuff. Yeah, that's what I thought was weird too. Why delete all your communications with Brian? Um, why would you need to do any of that stuff? It's just, I don't know. It's strange. So, I'm not really sure why. But she deleted information between them. Like phone calls and texts, stuff like that. Um, Miss Reed stands charged with the following crimes rising out of the death of her late boyfriend, John O'Keefe, murder in the second degree, which I think is kind of crazy that they're giving her second degree murder instead of like just manslaughter, because even if she did do it, I don't feel like she knew, or I feel like she would be blacked out and it would have been like a total accident, but I don't know, I guess. Count one, manslaughter by under the influence of alcohol. And count two, leaving the scene of a personal injury and death in a violation of MGL. Count three, two theories advanced by the Commonwealth in support of filing these charges are as follows. This is what The prosecution claims Miss Reed became suddenly angry with O'Keefe outside the home of Boston police officer Brian Albert and reversed into him with her vehicle, shattering her taillight by striking his head before fleeing the scene. And or two, Miss Reed became suddenly angry with O'Keefe outside Brian Albert's residence and struck him in the head with a cocktail glass before reversing into him with her vehicle, shattering her taillight and fleeing the scene. Both theories are largely born out of statements made by Jennifer McCabe to police. O'Keefe was found unresponsive in the early morning hours of January 29th in the front yard of the home of Boston police officer Brian Albert. Contrary to Commonwealth series, photographs of O'Keefe suggest he was beaten severely and left for dead, having sustained blunt force injuries to both sides of his face as well as the back of his head. Let me see if I can find pictures. I see them somewhere. I know they have. Let me see if I can find it. I know they have pictures somewhere. Mm, New members. Welcome, new members. Is somebody become a new member? So, welcome, welcome, welcome. Or if somebody donated memberships, thank you, thank you, thank you. I gotta open the pictures. I will show you. Uh, All right, trigger warning, guys. I'm gonna show some photos of his injuries. So if you are squeamish or do not you know, like, oh, Lori, thank you. Stop it, Lori. Hey, CM. You better stop it, Lori. So, I'm giving a warning right now. I'm gonna show them. Okay, about to put them up. All right. So, as you can see, he had two black eyes. He had an injury above his nose. I believe what looks like something on his cheek. His shoulders are bruised. He has a cut in the back of his head. He has some bruises on his hands. And then this is his arm. They are the defense is saying they believe these are dog bites or from the dog. And that's why his arm has punctures like that. His back. I don't know if that's pulling or bruising on his back, but I'm gonna guess that's pulling back there. That's why it looks dark. Thank you, Truth Seeker. Thank you. But as you can see, it does kind of look like, somebody beat him up in his face. Um, so yeah. Hey, Ellie. Um, where was I? All right. So so they're saying where was I? He was found unresponsive in the early morning hours of January 29th in the front yard of the home of Boston police officer Brian Albert. Contrary to the Commonwealth series, photographs of O'Keefe suggest he was beaten or Contrary to their beliefs, the photographs of John O'Keefe suggest that he was beaten severely and left for dead, having sustained blunt force injuries to both sides of his face as well as to the back of his head. In addition to suffering numerous defensive wounds on his hands, consistent with a brutal fight, he also suffered a cluster of deep scratches and puncture wounds to his right upper arm and forearm. These injuries to O'Keefe's right arm are consistent with bite marks and or claw marks from an animal, more specifically a dog. As discussed more fully in the defendant's motion for order pursuant to Massachusetts Criminal P-17 directed to Canton Animal Control and the Canton Clerk's Office, which is incorporated herein by reference, circumstantial evidence strongly suggests Brian Albert's German Shepherd canine is responsible for the injuries on O'Keefe's arm. 4 months after O'Keefe's death, Brian Albert went to great lengths to dispose of critical evidence by making sure Chloe, his family dog of 7 years, simply disappeared. Yeah. Well, um, I'm not sure. I don't know if it was I don't think it was broken, but I think he had like an injury right here. Um, what's the pic of above the arm ones? Hold on, let me look. The one above the arm ones was his hand, and there was, like, bruises on his hand right here. Like, right here. And keep in mind, which I just found out today, which I have to confirm, but if it they I've seen someone say that Canton Police confirmed that John O'Keefe had previously called the police on Colin Albert for either selling drugs or a drug-related incident. So that's why Colin and John didn't like each other because they were neighbors and John had called the police on him over a drug-related incident. So there's, I guess the motive on that end. And then the motive on the prosecution's end is that she backed the car into him when she was angry with him, and that she purposely backed the car into him or smashed a glass over his head or whatever. The events that transpired the night before O'Keefe's death on January 29th have always been largely undisputed. The evidence incontrovertibly establishes that on the evening of January 28th, the descendant O'Keefe and his girlfriend Karen Reed, Brian and Nicole Albert, Jennifer McCabe and Matthew McCabe, Brian Albert's sister-in-law and friend of Mr. O'Keefe, along with several other individuals, met and enjoyed drinks at Waterfall Bar and Grill in Canton, Massachusetts. As the bar was closing around midnight, the parties discussed going to Nicole and Brian Albert's residence located close by at 34 Fairview Road to continue the party and celebrate their son, Albert Jr.'s. Okay. So Brian Albert Jr.'s party was already kind of like going on while they were at the bar, from what it sounded like. And Brian Albert had some of his friends over, and also Colin was there, and they were already, I believe, like drinking or whatever too, from what it sounds like. Um, okay, so shortly after midnight, the Alberts, the McCabe's, and Brian Higgins, a close friend of Brian Albert and federal agent with Massachusetts Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosive, with an office inside Canton Police Department, left the bar in their respective vehicles and drove to the Albert residence for the after party. Oh wow, really? Uh, Video surveillance and footage and witness statements confirm Miss Reed and O'Keefe left the waterfall after midnight and departed together in Miss Reed's black Lexus SUV, as set forth in the attached affidavit of Richard Green. Location data obtained from O'Keefe's cell phone establishes that O'Keefe's cell phone first pings in the neighborhood near the Albert residence at 12:19 and then pings again near the Albert residence at approximately 12:24 a.m. on January 29th, 2022. Witnesses gave conflicting accounts regarding whether O'Keefe actually exited the vehicle and made his way into the Albert residence on January 29th. Ryan Nagel, one of the only recipient witnesses present on the night in question who is not closely related to the Alberts, arrived at the Albert residence just after O'Keefe and Miss Reed to pick up his sister, Julie Nagel. According to Mr. Nagel's interview with the police, hey, Jenny Jeannie, thank you. Thank you for becoming a member. He picked up his sister, Julie. According to Mr. Nagel's interview with police, he recalled seeing a set of headlights of a mid-sized black SUV coming from the opposite direction as he approached Fairview Road and yielded to the vehicle, allowing it to make a right-hand turn onto Fairview as their F-150 then followed. Ryan confirmed that he did not observe any erratic operation by the SUV at any point while in his presence. Both vehicles parked outside the Albert residence. He stated that he and his friend remained parked outside the driveway for approximately 5 minutes, at which he no longer needed a ride. Or at which his sister came out of the Albert residence and told him she was going to spend the night and no longer needed a ride. At some point, Mr. Nagel told police he observed the black SUV pull forward toward the edge of the property line. When he and his friends left shortly thereafter, he observed a woman sitting alone in the black SUV outside the residence as he pulled away from the house. So, she was by herself at this point. So he sees her sitting alone in the car. Where's John if he's not laying on the ground? Sounds like he may have been in the house already, according to this person. He further reported that he did not observe any damage to her vehicle. He didn't hear screams or otherwise observe any altercation between Miss Reed and O'Keefe, which would go against the prosecution's, theory of like her purposely, fighting with him and then purposely backing her car into him. Miss Reed has also maintained that, and mind you, he's not related, he's not friends with the O'Keefes or anything like that, or John or whatever. He's just a person that is, neither nor, just neutral. He's Switzerland. Okay. Miss Reed has always maintained that she dropped O'Keefe off at the Albert residence and waited for him to scope out the residence and make sure that they were at the correct house and weren't imposing. After calling O'Keefe several times and becoming frustrated with his failure to answer or otherwise respond to her, Miss Reed eventually left, presuming O'Keefe had proceeded into the house for the party. Conversely, Brian Albert, McCabe, Matthew McCabe, Jen McCabe have all maintained that O'Keefe never entered the residence on Fairview Road. Thankfully, because the Commonwealth finally produced a forensic image of John O'Keefe's phone to the defense, albeit a full year after the phone was taken into law enforcement custody, this court does not have to rely on statements of witnesses. As set forth in the attached affidavit of Richard Green, the expert in computer forensics and electronic data analysis stored on Keefe's cell phone, established that Keefe did, in fact, get out of the car and walk somewhere in the early morning of January 29th at some point in time where his location was consistent with being in the vicinity of the Albert residence. Oh, thank you, Just Samantha. Oh yeah, I have 8 bearded dragons, a Asian water monitor, 3 snakes, and a turtle. And a leopard gecko. Sorry. All right, so his phone is consistent with him getting out of the car and walking or whatever. As he sets forth in the attached affidavit, location data obtained from Keefe's phone established that his phone pinged in the neighborhood near the Albert residence at 12:19 and again at the location of the Albert residence at 12:24. Immediately following his arrival at the Albert residence between 12:21 and 12:24, Apple Health recorded O'Keefe taking 80 steps, traveling approximately 87.74 meters and climbing the equivalent of 3 floors, with his location data pinging in close proximity of the Albert residence. The only reasonable interpretation of Keith's Apple Health data is he entered the Albert residence, which has 3 floors. Between 12:31 a.m. and 12:32, Apple Health again recorded O'Keefe taking 36 steps with no elevation gain, approximately traveling 25 meters. Keefe did not walk the length of 3 swimming pools and climb equivalent of 3 flights of stairs by circling and climbing on top of Karen Reed's vehicle. Before the Commonwealth turned over the complete forensic copy of Jennifer McCabe's cell phone, the defense was forced to rely on its own investigative sources to attempt to discern what transpired after O'Keefe entered the residence just after 12:20 a.m. They're saying she left the Albert residence in her vehicle shortly after and returned to O'Keefe's home on One Meadows Avenue. The only statements regarding the events that transpired inside the Albert residence after O'Keefe took his last steps at 12:31 a.m. are the self-serving statements of Jen McCabe, Matthew McCabe, Brian Alberts, and his close friend, federal ATF agent with an office at Canton Police Department, Brian Higgins. As set forth in the attached affidavit of computer forensics expert Richard Green, the complete forensic extraction of Jennifer McCabe's cell phone data, which includes exculpatory information that was glaringly missing from Trooper Garino's full file system extraction of the same phone, reveals their lives. On February 2nd, 2022, mere days after Keith's death, Massachusetts State Police Trooper forensically imaged McCabe's phone. The first extraction failed to show any search for how long to die in the cold. After numerous discovery requests and filing a motion to compel, Deputy District Attorney Adam Lally finally agreed to produce the full forensic image of her phone on February 8th, 2023, a full year after Keith's death. Information obtained from the deleted cache of Jennifer McCabe's cell phone begins to unravel what occurred after Miss Reed left O'Keefe's residence on January 29th and the web of lies that resulted in the arrest and prosecution of Miss Reed. Now, if anyone's just coming in, this is the defense motion about what they believe happened. No, I have a whole zoo. I won't share the snake without warning, don't worry. But my snakes are really sweet and, they like little chin scratches and they'll sit there like this and let me do it. They're not mean or scary. All right, so it shows that Jen McCabe actually left the Albert residence. All right, hold on. Let me go back. Okay, according to Miss McCabe's interview with Trooper Proctor. Now, mind you, Proctor is good friends with the family, so he's a lead investigator, and he's good friends with Jen, good friends with Brian Albert. He's very good friends with them. Well, when they interviewed her at 11:30 a.m., when the events were still fresh in her mind, she claims that she left the Albert residence with her husband at approximately 1:30 a.m. and went home. The affidavit of Alan Jackson, however, as set forth in Richard Green's affidavit, a forensic analysis of her cell phone shows that she actually left the residence at 1:47 a.m. Moreover, she didn't drive directly home with her husband as she initially claimed. Instead, the McCabe's made the executive decision at 2 a.m. in a snowstorm to drop off 2 of Brian Albert Jr.'s friends who were in attendance at the party. Julie Nagel and Sarah Levinson, passing O'Keefe's residence at One Meadows Avenue on their way home, which is a little strange because, one, Julie Nagel was supposed to sleep over. Remember, she told her brother that she didn't need a ride and that she was going to stay at the home. And then now they're giving her a ride home. And they passed John O'Keefe's residence. The defense claims that McCabe clearly wanted to know whether Karen would be home to notice if and when John O'Keefe failed to return home that morning, or if that privilege would be left to his two adopted children. I don't believe Karen and John lived together. I think they had separate homes, but she would stay at his house. So, you know, that's why they were probably checking. After passing by the deceased home at One Meadows Ave, location data obtained from Jen's cell phone shows she arrived back at her home at 12 Country Lane at 2:12 a.m. Approximately 10 minutes later at 2:23 a.m., Apple Health recorded Miss McCabe climbed one flight of stairs, presumably to go to her upstairs bedroom. When questioned by law enforcement as to why O'Keefe never made it to the party, Miss McCabe told law enforcement she did not think anything of it and thought that Miss Reed and John O'Keefe had just decided not to come in. However, at 2:27 a.m. that morning, after making it safely home and climbing the stairs to the privacy of her bedroom, the first and only information Miss McCabe desperately needed to Google was how long to die in the cold. How long to die in the cold. Jennifer McCabe didn't sleep that night, contrary to her assertions to law enforcement. She obviously had a lot on her mind. Data taken from her Apple Watch established that she was up much of the night pacing at 2:32 a.m. Jennifer McCabe took 22 steps. At 3:50, she took 24 steps. At 3:51, she took 6 steps. At 4:55, she took 24 steps. At sorry, no. Indeed, Apple Health data obtained from Jennifer McCabe shows that her heart rate reached an 11-hour low at 12:49 a.m. and a high at 6:42 a.m. So 12:49 would have probably been before a fight started or broke out, and then it probably went up throughout the night, I'm guessing. Meanwhile, Miss Reed, the only person with reason to believe O'Keefe was actually missing, grew increasingly concerned with O'Keefe's failure to return home to his children on January 29th and answer her many phone calls and text message. After a fitful night of sleep, Miss Reed began frantically calling O'Keefe's friend shortly before 5 a.m. in an effort to locate him. She did message him and call him a bunch of times, like cursing him out, like, where the F are you? You know, like most women would, angry and wondering where they are, where their husband is at 5 a.m. Oh, that's cool. You're a herper. Oh, I'm sorry, Tracy. Yeah, I have three snakes actually. Three ball pythons. Different morphs, but ball pythons. I have a lemon blast, a regular, and I adopted a spider. I didn't purchase one. I adopted one. It has a little bit of a like a wobble. I take care of her. Um, where was I? So she started calling John's friend. She called Jennifer McCabe, who was conveniently awake to answer Miss Reed's early morning call. But Jennifer couldn't leave it at that. After picking up at 4:53 a.m. phone call from Miss Reed and O'Keefe's daughter Kaylee, the overly helpful Miss McCabe jumped out of bed and inserted herself into the search for O'Keefe, making every effort to delay Miss Reed in returning to the Albert residence to look for him, ensuring that she was in control of the narrative provided by police when O'Keefe's body was discovered. Yeah, she Googled it at her house when she got home, like, right after the party. Like, right when she got home from the party, she Googled it. I'm in this group. Oh, that's so cute. I love rainbow boas. Um, there's this group I'm in called Derpetology, and it's all your derpy pictures of your reptiles, and it's, like, my favorite Facebook group ever. It's so funny. I pull out my lizard and show you. He might not be too happy, though, because he's in his water bowl sleeping. He's in here right now. He's in his chair. Up at me. Oh, baby. Hey, Mal. It's my big boy. His name is Erwin. Well, until I know if he's a boy or a girl, but Erwin for now. You know, you're mad at me here. Oh, you keep. Anyway, yeah, he's gonna get the size of like a dog, but for now he's about the size of a cat. He's not too happy with me now. He just hissed at me. You're a crazy mofo sweater. African Babbit. Ooh, I've seen them before. He's out with human-sized boxing gloves. Well, he's a sweetie. He won't ever do anything to me, but he'll get like he'll puff his throat out at me and do a little like if I wake him up. But he won't ever bite me or anything. He's just a cranky. He's cranky that way. He's getting comfy in his little thing right now. I don't know if you can see him. There he is. See him? He's funny. Um. All right. So they go to look for him. Miss McCabe suggests that a hysterical Miss Reed drive all the way. She suggests that she drive all the way across town at 5 a.m. to her own residence at 12 Country Lane so they could go look for O'Keefe together. So she got to go pick him up. And then once they arrived at the McCabe residence, Miss McCabe insisted they drive Miss Reed's car back to O'Keefe's residence, where Miss Reed had just come from, so they could meet up with O'Keefe's friend Carrie and research O'Keefe's apartment to make sure he was not home, buying time to make sure John wouldn't live to tell this court what happened to him. After confirming, unsurprisingly, that O'Keefe was not at home and allowing her family members sufficient time to situate O'Keefe's body, the three women drove together. And by the way, if you're just coming in, this is the defense motion about what they believe happened to John O'Keefe. Um, and the three women drove together to Miss Roberts' car back to the Albert residence to look for O'Keefe. As the women pull up to Brian Albert's house shortly after 6 a.m., Miss Reed spots an unconscious O'Keefe laying face up on his back in the front yard of the Albert residence. Which is strange because everybody left the party and nobody sees him in the front yard. Miss Reed and Miss Roberts race to him and attempt to render aid. Miss McCabe curiously remained in the vehicle, dialed 911, and began controlling the narrative. In her initial statement to Trooper Michael Proctor, the lead investigator and close family friend of the Alberts and McCabes, Jennifer McCabe attributes a number of statements to Miss Reed that quickly make her the prime suspect. When asked to describe John and Karen's appearance at the waterfall, she describes John as wearing a baseball hat, jeans, and sneakers, but describes Karen as walking into the bar holding a drinking glass. Miss McCabe falsely tells Trooper Proctor that Miss Reed claims she went home alone that night and last saw John at the waterfall bar, and she had to correct Karen and tell her that they all went to the Albert residence. Miss McCabe tells Trooper Proctor that while they were searching for O'Keefe, Karen repeatedly asked, "Could I have hit him? Did I hit him?" Or Miss McCabe falsely tells Trooper Proctor that Karen began screaming to pull over because she saw O'Keefe's body before he was actually visible from the roadway, and that she and Miss Roberts didn't know what she was talking about because there was heavy snow, falsely implying that Miss Reed knew exactly where O'Keefe's body would be found. According to Nicole Albert's statement to Trooper Proctor, which is Brian Albert's wife, her and Brian Albert were still in bed on the early morning of January 29th when her sister Jen came into the room and shared with her what transpired outside, and that John was found deceased on the edge of her property by the street in the snow. Hey, Jabine. How are you? It's my 7-foot red-tailed boa named Beyonce. Aw, that's awesome. I have a big, she's like this thick, a big ball python. She's a big girl. Um, Nicole Albert reported to police that she never left her home, which is strange. If there is a dead person on your property, why wouldn't you come out? I mean, if there's a dead person outside of my house, I'm coming out. Uh, by the time she came downstairs, Canton Fire Department must have already transported both John and Karen from the scene. Um, so they said significantly, a broken cocktail glass was the only evidence recovered from the scene when law enforcement initially responded to the Albert residence around 7 a.m. And Canton PD initially informed medical personnel at the Good Samaritan Hospital that the broken cocktail glass was a suspected murder weapon. Notably, when Miss Reed first discovered John O'Keefe's body at 6:04 a.m., precipitation was minimal and there was no significant accumulation. Indeed, photographs taken from the time in question established there was only about an inch or less of snow that had accumulated. O'Keefe's body was clearly visible and appeared noticeably out of place on the Albert's flat and bare front lawn. Hey, Lucia. Am I saying that right? Hey, sexy wild thing, Carol freaking Claus. I love her name. Hey, Nora's grandma. Hey, everyone. Yeah, it's all right. So if you're just coming in, I'll give you a little rundown. Karen and John, boyfriend or girlfriend, they're at the bar. While they're there, they run into Jen McCabe. She is a friend of, or her kids were friends with John O'Keefe's nieces that he adopted. Jen says, "Hey, we're going back to Brian Albert's house. He's a cop. You want to come back to the party? Blah, blah, blah." So they leave the bar. They head to the Alberts' home. Jen McCabe is Brian Albert's sister-in-law. She's the one who invited them. So they get there, and Cameron's like, "Hey, can you go inside and make sure it's okay if I could come in? Because, they didn't really invite me. They invited you." She drops him off at the door. She sees him walk to the door. She goes and turns around and sits and waits outside. In the meantime, a guy who was coming to pick up his sister pulled up and said that he sees Karen there in her car. He didn't see any erratic driving. He didn't see anybody outside the car. He didn't see any screaming. He just saw her sitting alone in her car. His sister comes out and says she doesn't need a ride. She is going to stay the night there. So he leaves. Karen leaves and goes home and goes to bed. She wakes up around 5 something a.m. She's like, "John's not home." Like, "John, where the F you at? Why are you not home? What's going on?" Never messaged her back. John never messaged her back. He never said, "Oh, hey, come on in." And he had gotten this drunk, like on New Year's, which was 28 days before this. And she was, it was a similar situation. They got in a fight on New Year's about him getting too drunk, and she was mad. So she said, "Oh, fuck this guy. I'm going home." She goes home, falls asleep, wakes up. He's not there. She's cursing him out, yelling at him, "Why aren't you home? Blah, blah, blah." Then she starts calling people who might know where he is, Jennifer McCabe being one of them. Jen says, "Okay, here, let's go look for him." They show up to Brian Albert's house, and there he is, laying dead on the front lawn. He has blunt force trauma, black eyes, bruises on his hands, cuts all over his arm. The prosecution is saying that she backed into him and killed him, angry after a fight between them, and that she hit him with a glass. Or and then defense is saying that so Brian Albert's nephew, who was at the party, him and John had beef because John is his neighbor, and John had called the cops on him before over drugs. And they believe that Colin started a fight with him, and the homeowner Brian jumped in to assist his nephew. And the homeowner was a trained MMA fighter, and they also believe that his canine may have jumped in and attacked John, knocked him unconscious, put scratches all over him, and then they took him outside and threw him in the snow on the front lawn. They also believe, well, Jen McCabe goes home after the party, and at 2:27 in the morning, she Googles how long to die in the cold, which is really weird. Why would you Google how long to die in the cold unless something happened? So that's why they think something happened because of that weird Google search. They I haven't really seen an explanation for it except for maybe like a time issue. Like she Googled it later and it picked up as that time or whatever. But here she did Google it again later after she called 911, but she spelled it differently then. So it's very strange that she made that Google search. She also deleted some communications between her and Brian Albert, the homeowner, in her phone before she had to hand her phone in, which is also a little strange. So, uh, that's basically where we're at. So, key spot. Okay. Um, However, cell records established that immediately after disconnecting with 911 dispatch, Jennifer McCabe actually made two calls to her sister, Nicole Albert's cell phone, aka Coco, at 6:07 and 6:08 a.m., both of which were answered by someone and were subsequently deleted. So she deleted the calls between her and her sister. Thus, Brian and Nicole Albert were among the first individuals to be notified that O'Keefe's body was laying unresponsive mere feet away on their front lawn, and in spite of being in such close proximity, they made no effort to go outside and or assist or otherwise investigate the emergency that was unfolding on their doorstep. Um, what if he was still alive? Like nobody came out to try and help render aid, whatever. Either Nicole's lying or Jennifer McCabe was on the phone with her husband Brian Albert. Either way, Brian and Nicole Albert chose to sequester themselves in their home, distancing themselves from the investigation rather than check on John O'Keefe, assist in life saving efforts, speak with responding officers, or otherwise investigate the circumstances surrounding the fact that their family member had just discovered the body of a Boston police officer on their front lawn. Um, So what's also strange is that the lead investigator, Michael Proctor, says he isn't close friends with the family and that there isn't a conflict of interest, but there is because he is very close with them and there is plenty of pictures on social media proving that. Pictures of his children and the Alberts children together and with the McCabe's, also him being at family parties with them and stuff like that. So he is rather close, even though he denies it. Uh, there is a lot of evidence to suggest, um, you know, yeah, definitely a conflict of interest for sure. All right, so at 6:23, Jennifer McCabe makes an outgoing call to her brother-in-law, Brian Albert, which he doesn't answer, and then subsequently deletes the record of that call. Less than a minute after failing to reach Brian Albert at 6:23 a.m., Jennifer McGee begins panicking and opens an article in her Safari application by Healthline entitled "How Long Does It Take to Digest Food?" Which what an unbelievably odd and incriminating thing to search immediately upon finding a dead body. Significantly, the presence of food particles in a descendant's stomach and upper small intestine serve as a source of information for pathologists in calculating time of death. Almost immediately thereafter, Jennifer McCabe tried to overwrite her incriminating search from earlier that morning regarding how long it takes to die in the cold by re entering it at a more appropriate time after she supposedly found John O'Keefe's body in the cold. However, in all the commotion in her haste to cover up her incriminating 2:27 a.m. search about how long it would take O'Keefe to die in the cold, she accidentally searches how long to die in the cold spelled differently than the first time. So the first search, I'll type it in chat so y'all can see. At 2:27 a.m. said something like this, like it had one letter off. Okay, and then this search at 6:23 spells like this. That's okay. And yes, it's a lizard. It will, yeah, it'll get to be about a dog size. Uh, well, it's not a try it hasn't gone on a trial yet, but, it will be soon, I believe. They're just having motion hearings and stuff like that, but it's coming up to that soon. Okay, so then again at 6:24, she enters a second search, this time repeating her search and spells it the way she did the first time. In case her sloppy attempt to cover up her incriminating Google search wasn't enough, on February 1st, 2022, in a transparent and unsuccessful effort to conceal her own criminality and blame on Miss Reed, Miss McCabe inexplicably tells police for the first time that while she was seated alone with Miss Reed together in a car after law enforcement arrived on the scene, we prayed the Our Father together. Karen then immediately yelled at me 2 times to Google, "How long do you have to be left outside to die from hypothermia?" So she's telling the police now that Karen told her to Google it. But why did she Google it at 2:27 in the morning then, if that was the case? Jan McCabe knew how devastating it would be if the wrong person in law enforcement discovered that she Googled how long to die in the cold hours before she claims to have found John's body in the Sow. Thus, in an attempt to deflect suspicion and justify this incredibly incriminating Google search, she reverted to blaming everything on Miss Reed. Fortunately for Miss McCabe, her decision to Google how long to die in the cold at 2:27 a.m., 2 hours after John O'Keefe made his way into the Albert residence, was hers and hers alone. I feel if she was involved in it really. Are you talking about, Lauren Cook? Yeah, maybe. Shockingly, in what can only be described as a clear attempt by Miss McCabe to frame Miss Reed, Richard Green's forensic analysis of Jennifer McCabe phone reveals that Miss McCabe took affirmative steps to delete that 2:27 a.m. search for how long to die in the cold, but did not attempt to remove the other 2 searches. That is huge to me. So she went out of her way to delete the one at 2:27 in the morning, but left the ones at 6 something in the morning. Like, she literally tried to delete the one at 2:27 AM, which I think proves that she didn't make it at 2:27 AM, right? Like, how could that be a time mishap if she actively went to go try and delete that one? At first, I thought maybe there was just, like, a time thing and it, like, registered as the wrong time, but if she actually actively went to go delete that one at 2:27 in the morning, that is shady. That is definitely super shady to me. Oh my god, I opened this Red Bull at 9:30, and I haven't been drinking it the whole time, and it's so full. Hopefully, I'm not up all night, but I mean, it was cold, it was snowing, so and he died of hypothermia. The defense is not suggesting that Jennifer McCabe killed O'Keefe and covered up his murder alone. The communication and contacts that Jennifer McCabe intentionally deleted from her phone in the 4 days between O'Keefe's death and her decision to turn her phone over to law enforcement for analysis are key to uncovering what transpired on January 29th. As set forth more fully below, Jen McCabe intentionally sanitized her phone of her contacts with Brian and Nicole Albert on January 29th before turning her phone over to law enforcement. So she deleted them as contacts in her phone. And the only reasonable inference as to why Jennifer McCabe would intentionally tamper with evidence she knew she was providing to law enforcement is because, like her 2:27 a.m. Google search, she and Brian have taken calculated steps to hide incriminating information. As explained in the affidavit, analysis of her cell phone recovered various contacts and communication which were deleted by Miss McCabe on January 29th. For example, on January 29th at 12:53 p.m., just hours after O'Keefe was found dead in Brian Albert's front lawn, McCabe deleted a screenshot of Brian Albert's contact information, which was saved in her phone as Uncle Brian A. She also deleted the phone call she made to Brian Albert at the same number on January 29th at 6:23 a.m. Sorry, Shabana. Sorry. I'm getting you down the rabbit hole. Um, all right. I'm getting tired of reading, so I'm gonna try and like cram this for you. But there's so many good things in here. I don't want to miss anything. Um, the two Canton Police Department incident reports are almost identical and report to have been created and generated on the exact same date and the exact same time. However, the report produced on October 25th, the Alta report, is different from the report produced months earlier on February 2nd, 2022, the original report, in two very significant respects. The Alta report swaps the single crime scene photograph included with the report from a photograph that was taken on the morning of January 29th by Canton PD, where there were clearly no pieces of Miss Reed's taillight at the crime scene, to a crime scene photograph taken on February 3rd by Massachusetts State Police when Trooper Proctor reportedly recovered pieces of her taillight at the scene later after he had already taken possession of her vehicle. So basically, when they first searched the area, they found no pieces of taillight. Then her car was towed, he had her vehicle, and then he had about an hour time frame to be alone at the place, and then suddenly there was taillight pieces. Now, what I also find very interesting is if you see, all right, there's footage of Karen waking up or leaving her house around 5 a.m. to leave to go for look for John. As she pulls out, she slightly taps a car behind her, and then as her car pulls off, you don't really see any broken taillight. It doesn't look broken. It's hard to tell, but it doesn't look broken at all, which would be on her side because supposedly when she hit him at 2 something in the morning, it was broken. So why at 5 a.m. did it not look broken when she pulled out? Well, because she said, "Oh my gosh, I could have hit him or something," and that's why they picked her. It was his girlfriend, you know? So that was the best way to, I guess, say that's how he died, you know? They were at first they were trying to make it look like she left him at the bar and then he ended up there, but she was like, "No, I dropped him off there." Like that's the story Jen tried to say at first was uh that he and Karen split up at the bar. Um, the Alta report replaces Brian Albert's primary cell phone, the very same number Jennifer McCabe deleted from her cell phone belonging to Uncle Brian A, with a completely different number. So the phone numbers are changed. Thus, the witnesses in the case have made repeat attempts to conceal, hide, and erase any reference to Brian Albert's cell phone number in connection with the case. So I guess they in the report they made Brian's cell phone number be a different number. So when Jennifer McCabe's forensic report came out, they would think Brian's cell phone number was a different number and not think that it was her number because she was probably like, "Oh my god, I deleted your phone number out of my phone. What do I do?" So maybe in the report they changed his number to a random number so that when it came up, they'd be like, "Oh no, that's not Brian's number. Brian's number's in this report." Yeah, Red Bull time to keep me up. But anyway, let me see. All right, then he got rid of his dog. He redid the floors in his basement and then sold the house shortly after all this transpired. Um, so there's a lot of things that I think they have. I think there is. like, a lot of reasonable doubt, and I will be shocked if people do. I mean, like, for instance, they say his phone never made it into Brian Albert's house, but his Apple Watch says he was going up and down steps at that time. Why did they get rid of the dog? Why did they sell the house? Why did they redo the basement floors? Why did she delete the phone calls? Um, it's, it's strange. There is a connection there with Colin and a beef there because John called the cops on Colin, so could have Colin started the fight. I mean, it's a pretty good theory. And it makes it even more suspect that she tried to delete that search at 2:27 a.m. Because at first I was like, oh, maybe, just maybe, there was a time a time discrepancy. Maybe the phone read this time, but it was actually at this time. But if she tried to delete that 2:27 one, that shows me that it wasn't a discrepancy. She knew about it and she was trying to get rid of it. So I don't know, but I don't think she'll be convicted. No, no way. If she is, I think that's that's just bullshit. Because this this is pretty damning in my opinion. But I have to get next time I will get the prosecution's affidavit and I will read that. I have this already up from the other day, so the one witness is that guy Ryan Nagel, who has no affiliation to the family, and said that he was at the house, parked outside, while she was parked out there, and he saw her alone in the car and didn't see anything wild going on, and then he left. But he didn't see John out there. He didn't see an argument. He just saw her sitting out there by herself in the car. He didn't see any erratic driving or nothing. So that'll be important too. But, I mean, it's hard because they're going up against a police officers, and there's conflict of interest there and everything, so, next live, I will get the prosecution side of it. I just happen to have this already pulled up in my history from the other day because I was talking about it on somebody's panel, so that's why I went with this one first, but we can talk about prosecutions next time. But, I'm gonna end it because I am hot and tired and ready to go. But yeah, I will. What's today? What is today? Tuesday? I'll try to like Thursday night, maybe. We'll shoot for Thursday night. But thank you all for coming and hanging out with me. And I will see you soon and we'll talk about we'll go over the other side. And thank you, Lori, again for the memberships. And thank you, Jenny, for becoming a member. I hope I didn't miss anything because sometimes I was looking away. But all right, good night, guys. Bye. Say bye to the lizard real quick. All right. See ya. Thanks, K Rays. Bye.